So Brian, we don't have Noah yet. Just to let you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Looks like Brian froze.
Do we have any, has Noah communicated with anybody? I'm just wondering how long we should wait before we start.
Yeah, I mean, we can go ahead. I haven't heard from him. I just checked my email. Didn't see anything.
We have,
Yeah,
we have three, so we have a quorum. Why don't we go ahead and start? Would all who wish stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have one proposed agenda adjustment. Would like to move item 8A, the auditor presentation, between 5 and 6 before the reports, so that our auditor, who I believe is there in person, will be able to finish up and head out. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any other suggestions or corrections for the agenda?
well, just to note, we don't have any staff nominations if you want to remove that from the agenda.
Okay.
And auditor presentation is 7A, not 8A. Not that it matters.
7A. Sorry. Yes, correct. Thank you. Rachel can correct that in the motion. Yeah, so no staff nominations. I think that's fine. Okay, so we'll go ahead and vote on moving 7A before the reports. We'll do it by roll call since I'm remote. Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye, so that has been changed. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of December 10th as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussions or corrections? We'll go ahead and vote. Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of December 10th workshop. Is there a second?
My second.
Any discussion? Go ahead and vote. Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. I would make a motion to approve payroll warrants 13 and 14, regular warrants 13 and 14, main purse for December 2024, and capital improvement warrant 19. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Go ahead and vote. Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion carries. The floor is open for public comment.
We do not have any public comment in the room, Brian.
Don't see anybody who's looking like it online either. Go ahead and move on. Acknowledgements. Kevin?
None at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Mark?
None for me, thank you.
Ursula O'Connor?
Not at this time.
All right. I don't have any either. Meredith?
I think since we last met, we had a couple of other concerts happen and they were just really outstanding. I think OMS had happened before we last met. But then after we met, the ASA concert, which had to be rescheduled because of weather or no power, actually it was the power issue. And then the OHS concert, and appreciate all the efforts that went into preparing for those. I know they were enjoyed by all.
Great, thanks. And I note that BJ Bowden received a $251 grant from Kaplan Learning Company for teaching stress reliever activities. We'll go ahead and move on to the audit presentation.
So Craig, I have the presentation. Do you want me to display it on the screen? So when they all have it on their screens, but it just might make it easier.
Sure.
On the screen.
Yeah, and I'll be skipping to like certain pages.
Okay.
So it's easier.
It might be helpful if you came to this side, or is that okay? If you want to move that table just forward a little, he can stand behind that table. I think the owl will pick you up better if you're kind of standing. That's good, Richard. Right there is good. Richard, that's good.
That's real good?
Yeah.
All right.
Is it picking you up? If you speak, yeah, it is. I can see you up there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna.
Just tell me when you say what page, I'll try to
I'll
get
do that. So overall, the audit was great. Ended up the results are no findings, unmodified opinion. It went really smooth, just like last year. So we've had a consistent 2 years in a row of that. It's very nice to come into an audit, have that process in place, have the controls in place, and have everything set to go, because it allows for just a much smoother process overall.
What happens when you have Lynn Ready?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what happens when you have Lynn Ready.
That's right. Yes, yes. She wants to make sure of that. Yeah, so I will just briefly go over some highlights. Otherwise it would take all evening to go through this, but I'm just gonna skip to page 17.
Okay. There.
Is that 17th, next page?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was using my thumbnail.
Yeah.
Number. There we go.
Yeah, so this is just the breakdown of all the funds of the district, of the unit. So you get your general fund in that first column. So I just go over the fund balance and where it ended up at the end of the year. Your unassigned carry forward was 2.7 million, almost 2.8 million. And then you had some other carry forwards in that as well. The special revenue column has 3 different categories. You have your scholarship funds in there, some grant and contribution and donation carry forwards in there, and then some school, and then the school activity funds. So the large balance being the student activity funds there. The grants are mostly reimbursement grants, so you're not gonna have a carrying balance on those. And then over the capital projects side, compared to last year, there's gonna be a dwindling amount in there because the projects are winding down. And that's it for that side. Page 19 there. So that's the breakdown of the revenues and expenses for each of those funds. So you see the general fund, total fund balance, and then there 2.9 million, 2,950,000. That's the total of all the unassigned and the carry forwards. And then the breakdown by other funds. Most notable here would be the capital project stands out, large capital outlay, but also new funding coming in of 4,350,000 for new bond proceeds. But there again, not 157,000 left over there. And then the food service fund, I'll just highlight, not much change there, ending with a fairly large balance for a food service program. So the food ended up, even though I had a slight decline, still a healthy balance of 198,000. But the Department of Ed is looking to reduce school food service balances over time, so forcing units to do so. Page 47.
And 47 really is 47.
Yeah, so that's just the budget versus actual. So this is how you arrive at the fund balance that you came up with at the end of the year. Overall positive variances there, which allows for that fund balance not to fluctuate too much this year. It did decline a little bit, but still a overall healthy carry forward in there. So you had a positive variance in the revenue side of 192,000. You had a positive variance in expenditures of 934,600. Two cost centers were overspent, so that just required some budget transfers. That 65,000 was transferred down to cover the systems admin and to cover the overage and interest expense that was unanticipated. So down, if you look further down below, you'll see the change as a result of those positive variances is a decrease of 45,462. But you anticipated to use 981,000 of fund balance and didn't need to do so. So which resulted in the fund balance being 2.9 million, 2,950,000 combined. So those are the highlights. And if there's any questions, I can take those now or.
So our unassigned fund balance.
Yep.
Is the 2.9 or the 2.7? The 2.7, because 2.9 includes our reserves.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we carry forwards. Other. Yeah.
I just have one
Sure.
question.
Yeah.
The student activity fund is how much?
263,000
That-
total.
Is that
between
bigger
the
than normal?
schools. What's that?
Oh,
No, that's all the fundraising accounts for
Yeah.
all the schools, so all the classes, all the sports, principal contingencies, anything that doesn't live in our budget, that's not like a grant that goes into the. So that's about typical, I think.
Yeah, there's a page in the back that breaks it down by school too. Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Any
I
other
think you
questions? Go ahead.
covered this, but so our unassigned balance plus the 200,000 reserve is 2.7. I think you said that went down slightly, but I'm trying to figure out on this page where that.
I
Yeah,
think that's back on page 17, isn't it?
yeah, Brian, over page 17. So overall, the fund balances declined. So that's from the 2.995 down to 2.950. So I don't know, we're broken down as far as what the unassigned did individually, but I think that comprises the majority of the decline because the reserves the debt service and the fuse stabilization would have increased, I believe, where then.
It was about 90,000.
Added to those,
It was
so,
about 90,000 down in the unassigned.
yeah.
I have to go back to the budget discussion, but, and this is not really a question for Craig, but I know we were trying to spend it down more than that.
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Does anybody remember how much we were trying to spend it down?
Let me unshare my screen because I pulled up that today. We had projected to spend it down by about 400,000. If we spent all of the, if we spent the capital reserve amounts, the milty amount and the fuel stabilization amount into our like 800,000 that we had put in there. So we underspent our budget more than anticipated by, you know, I would say we put in 829. And then we had about 400,000 coming out for 250,000 for reserves and 152,000 for the milty payment.
Okay, thank you. I mean, just some things to start feeding into the budget discussion next year.
I mean, it feels like, I mean, last year, we ended up adding to the unassigned in last year's audit, which was unexpected. And this year, when Lynn first did projections, we were up at about 289,000 or 290,000 that she felt like was potential for dropping the fund balance when she did all of her projections. And so to end up at only 91,000 down, you know, feels again like a bit of a surprise. And I just think, you know, this year I'm feeling like there were more unanticipated things that have hit our budget that make me think, gosh, we're going to lower it this year. But other years I've thought the same thing, and there's just counter, you know, balancing under expenditures in places that are so diffuse and, you know, spread out that it doesn't feel like we're under expending to the extent to offset some of these, like the volleyball court, you know, was a lot more than anticipated. And there was something else that came up that was just, you know, wow, that's gonna hit our budget.
Volleyball is mostly this year.
Yeah, volleyball was this year, but it seems like there was one other thing, but.
Always seems like
Yep.
there are.
So in this year's budget, though, we increased our where we had been doing 829,000 in the budget to, you know, from unassigned to balance out our expenditures and keep taxes level. We increased that by 100,000, I think. Yeah, and we did some one-time expenditures of, I think, 81,000. Lynn and I just looked at that. We had the 200,000 going to capital reserve again. And we had a milty payment of, I think, around 91,000 coming from unassigned. So all those things were, you know, being taken from unassigned. So we'll see this year the impact of those things, plus, you know, an unplanned expenditure around volleyball, if that impacts it more.
Yep, fair enough. Thank you. Sorry, Craig. Go ahead.
Just a preview into next year's finances, Fred.
Pre-audit already.
Special education is always that fluctuating cost center too.
For sure.
Never know, for sure, but you just happen to have a large positive there, so. That's it for mine, actually, Brian, so.
Okay.
Will you say what you just said again about special education and point us to what you're talking about?
Oh, meaning that it's
A large positive, you said?
large positive, sometimes that could be a large fluctuation in that category.
Oh, if you have a lot of, okay.
Yeah. Exactly,
Gotcha.
so, you know, big swings happen more.
Yeah.
As well as facilities, but.
Any other questions or comments about the audit for Craig? Thank you, Craig. We appreciate your time and coming and talking with us and
Thank you.
your guidance throughout the year.
Thank you.
Stay warm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Craig. And yeah, also thank you, Lynn. I know a lot of work goes into that every year, and really value having numbers that we can count on with a great degree of reliability. So, and getting clean audits all the time.
And
We'll go ahead and move on.
Sue is also a big part of that.
Yeah.
Sue Bell.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead and move on to director reports. So we'll start with Lisa.
Can you hear me okay?
Can.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Not much has changed in our world. Looking at special education, our numbers are remaining about the same. We've had a high number of new referrals since the beginning of the year. We've had 24 new referrals, and then I received, I put this on paper yesterday. I received 3 more referrals in the mail today. So business is good as usual. Our meetings have been very steady with our delayed starts and some snow days. We've had a hard time kind of catching up on some of the meetings that had to be rescheduled. Jill Conley, the 504 coordinator, has stepped in to cover several meetings for me, so I'm very appreciative of that. We've recently filled 2 open ed tech positions, one at the high school, one at the middle school. We currently have 1 position left at ASA. We are very happy to have Erin Kime returning to us from maternity leave. She's our social worker with Acadia, with Northern Lights. And right now she's only able to bill for main care students, but and within the month we'll be able to bill for other insurances as well. So I think that's going to open things up for her and be very helpful to our students. I've talked about high numbers in the past, and we've kind of had to look at. I was getting referrals from guidance counselors, and I had to kind of remind them we need to triage these because parents will call and say, hey, I'd like to get counseling for my student, but we kind of need to prioritize uh, the kids that need help right away, or kids that might be short term. So we're working on how to do that together. Now that Erin's back, it's a little bit easier. We also participated in the DOE special education audit in December. We had a short list of pre-findings, just 2 needing to be addressed immediately, and they involved students on shortened school days, which has included some new language and some changes because of legal actions in other districts to make sure that we put certain wording in our written notices and in our IEPs. So we've corrected those. We'll receive our corrective action plan at the end of this month and scheduled a training for staff during our early release day in February with the DOE to kind of help us implement any changes that need to be implemented. Uh, or I would say, Meredith and I have been doing a little research on, early adopters of the CDS transition services to public school for children 3 years old and up. Thus far, we've had 1 cohort that's participating with the state as an early adopter. We've been really pleased with what we've heard as far as their experience. It's been very positive. The DOE is looking right now for participants in cohort 2. And there are a few districts around us considering it. I don't know of any in our local group that are actually have decided to jump in. We're looking into it as well. Meeting with potential resources and how we'll meet those needs for our 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. In the MLL world, I have no news to share. Business continues to be very busy for them as well. Nursing also, everything is going smooth. Karen's been out because of surgery, and we've had somebody who's been able to be a consistent sub in that position, which has been helpful. We're all looking forward to Karen coming back. But as of right now, that's how things stand in my world. Any questions?
Just wanted to say 2 things. One, Lisa sent us a report and it didn't get to the folder. I just added it to the folder for those of you who wanted to take a look at it. Secondly, the information Lisa shared about CDS, we're doing some final research in the coming week, but are likely going to bring a recommendation to the board at the next meeting that authorizes us to move forward with required paperwork that would keep our name, moving forward with the DOE to be able to start with cohort 2 next year for 3-year-olds. So more to come next meeting, but just wanted to prepare you that that's probably coming on the next agenda. So I was admittedly a skeptic, wanting to wait and learn from everyone else before jumping, but I think what I've learned from the folks we've talked to that have done it, that they see no downside and they are only seeing positive outcomes for kids. And that feels a lot better than what we are experiencing now. And so we'll talk more about that next meeting.
Something from the state with no downside.
I know, well, the problem is, what we've seen is students coming in who've been waiting for so long on services from the current model out there, that we feel like, we can have more effective early intervention to really, maybe solve some backlog that we're seeing when kids are coming in unidentified or with needs that could have been more easily addressed, a year or two earlier. And the funding model seems to be working really well, according to what we're hearing from people who are doing cohort 1, which is really great to hear. It's outside of EPS completely. So we'll share a lot of those nuances as we understand them when we talk next, but we have a deadline sometime in February that we have to declare our intention to move forward with this second round of second year of implementation.
Great. Seeing no other questions, we'll go ahead and move to Susan.
Good evening. Lots going on in the Director of Learning world, and no, that's for sure. Our DEI surveys go out to staff tomorrow. The DEI data team felt that it would benefit us in our picture of our district if we administered the staff surveys, the student surveys, and the family surveys all within the same time period. We've done some in the fall and some in the spring in the past, and so we've settled on winter and are looking forward to seeing people's perspectives and feelings at this point and how they might have changed over time, and to help guide our work in DEI in the future. Just want to make sure that I thank verbally, in addition to my written report, our Title I staff at the ASA Adams School, particularly the ed techs, Lori O'Brien, Nicole Wentworth, and Tracy Leanne. They work really hard to support our students who are performing in math or reading below grade level. And we look at our NWA data together as a board and as an administrative team quite a bit, and in certain views of it. That data is also used when we report to the state on how we're doing with programs. So nice to see some growth there in the kids at ASA. Not in my report, but written report, but I did want to share with you that Dan Patterson, our school resource officer, has been trained in the new DARE model, and we're really excited about his plans to come and provide 10 lessons to our 5th grade students this winter and spring. And DARE now stands for a decision-making model that is define, assess, respond, and evaluate. So you might be familiar with DARE from the past. It has really changed a lot over the last couple of years in particular. It was kind of put on hold and then revamped. So Dan went to training for 2 weeks, and we really appreciate the police department's support of that. And he's excited and ready to go with our students. Some of the lessons he'll be doing with 5th grade, one of them is called Dealing with Stressful Situations. Another one's called Nonverbal Communication and Listening. So they really will help reinforce those lessons that Lisa Earhart does with our kids. So we're excited about that story. Because he attended that training and we as a district agreed to have those lessons with our 5th grade kids, that means that we also get access for Officer Patterson to many other lessons and opportunities that we can take advantage of. So he is meeting with our 9th grade health students to do a lesson on fentanyl, opioid use, and Narcan. And it's nice to have his perspective in that class. And I'll do that this semester and then for the group next semester as well. And he and I and others will be talking with the ASA staff at one of their upcoming staff meetings about some poster lessons that he can do with kindergarten through 2nd graders and have them become a little bit more familiar with him and him with them and share some content. So we're excited about that. Professional development coming up. The 17th of January is our next early release day. That's a full day, really focused, particularly in the morning, on student engagement. And it's exciting to be able to use our strategic plan as a guide for planning our professional development. So we have folks from the DOE coming to do a presentation and help us build a common vocabulary around student engagement using a continuum that Amy Berry has developed. And then breakout sessions, choice sessions after that will be led by folks from the DOE's team as well. And we'll have really strong connections between things that the Department of Ed offers and programs that they have in place that we can tap into for teacher learning in particular, and how those connect to student engagement. So we're excited about that. And information to come soon, but Lynn Lyons will be in our district March 13th and 14th. And Lynn is a nationally renowned expert on anxiety with students, but also does a great job connecting social media and smartphone use and how that impacts what we see in our students. So we're excited about having her booked to come to our district. She'll be doing an evening presentation for parents on March 13th. She'll also be meeting with our students on the afternoon of March 13th. So from kids in grades 5 all the way up to grade 12, we'll do 2 different groups, a middle school group and a high school group. And then she'll spend about an hour and a half with our staff on our March 14th early release day as well. So that's also very closely connected to the well-being goal in our strategic plan. And then I want to spend a little bit of time talking about our Solutionaries project with our high school students, grade 9 in particular. In my written report, you have a framework and a picture of the framework for Solutionaries projects. When Meredith Diamond and I first heard about this and dug into it a little more, I had a conversation with the leaders of the project. It really seemed like it would be a very nice fit for helping to build community in our grade 9 classes and really connect to the engagement pieces, critical thinking, and our dream of having students think more deeply and experience more deeply the place in which we live. So we had an opportunity for a group of 6 of us to spend about 4 days in Brunswick and receive training in the Solutionaries framework. And in addition to that training, we also had time to work together to map out what that could look like for our students. So our plan is starting when the semester changes. Students will be focused in their grade 9 English language art class, the world civ and government geography class, excuse me, and the grade 9 science class, all around the question of, does the quality of this place meet the needs of those who live here? And each teacher has developed a guiding question that's really more related to their content area. And kids will really investigate and take a deep dive in all 3 of those content areas into what's the quality of this place and how does it meet the needs of those that live here, being people and other living creatures, so animals and plants. And from that, students will end up writing a problem statement and moving into a deeper investigation that's related to their problem statements, working in groups that are smaller groups of students that are focused together on that problem statement and that problem. The next phase will happen after April break, when kids innovate and try to come up with solutions to the problems that they've identified. And when they evaluate those solutions, we'll be looking at the feasibility of the solutions and does it do most good with the least harm? So what's possible to do and what does the most good with the least harm? That is followed by actually implementing those those ideas that the kids have, and having them evaluate how that went, and also celebrating with each other and the community. So we hope to have a time for you and others, parents and others in the community, to come and see the work that the students have done that's grown out of these Solutionaries projects. We are keeping the schedule the same as it has been or has planned to be for the second semester. So this work will be done in the classes that the kids are taking now and trying to capture win-win time and advisory time and some other times throughout the school day and school year where kids can be in their focused area group, and in addition to having their content area classes. I think the teachers have put a lot of thought into how this can work for our kids, and they're excited to give this Solutionaries projects a try. It is a different kind of teaching. So initially, there's a lot of background work and diving deeply into that question of the quality of this place and how it meets those that live here. But then when students identify problems that they want to work on, the teacher is not the expert anymore, and they're really helping students guiding students to find resources and to interview people in the community and to look around to see what's already been done and to evaluate their ideas. And so that's a different kind of teaching, and I commend our teachers for being willing to step into that role more so than they have in the past. So Dave Miller, Erica Dixon, Jeff Owen, and Shauna Goodall will be helping lead that work, and we're excited to see where it might take us. This idea of helping grow solutionaries and young people who can feel like they can make a difference and do make a difference as they tackle problems that are important to us, to them rather, is really exciting to us. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions or wonders at this point?
Sounds exciting. I guess that may be a little bit of a technical question out on the weeds, but I know some of the ninth graders are in AP Hugo. Is that gonna affect the solutionary work at all?
It does not affect the solutionary work. So they will still be taking their AP Hugo class, and Shauna has done a lot of thought about how the topics that are being discussed and dove into in the solutionaries work also connect to that AP Hugo class. And the kids that are in the HEPS honors class will still be HEPS honors students. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, sounds very exciting. I mean, like you said, it's certainly part of what we were envisioning when we started on the strategic plan process. So
Yeah. So we'll keep you updated. I'm sure there'll be some some hiccups along the way, but we'll learn from those as well. And yeah, one of the questions that Lynn Lyons encourages adults to ask kids instead of "How did your day go?" Is what's something that's unexpected that happened to you today, and how did you handle that? And I think we'll have opportunities to ask ourselves and our students this question as we go through our these projects.
I would not really questions, but a couple of comments. One of them kind of relates to that point right there is, I mean, this sounds fine. I'm a little concerned that it seems like this was embarked in October and November, and now we're going to implement it in January. And if it's ready to go or not, so I'll be interested to see that. And then this may be one specific thing I hope that the teachers will keep in mind with the kids. If you look at, sounds like in phase 3 and phase 4, their students are going to be looking for answers under this idea of a rubric of most good, least harm. And that's, utilitarianism is fine and all, but it's not, in the eyes of many, kind of the best ethical decision-making model. There's others out there that probably could be introduced. I mean, I don't know if ninth grade students are ready for Kant yet at this point, but they could probably handle some John Rawls, and if it was boiled down a little bit. And there's a lot of people, and I'd probably put myself in that group, who have some pretty serious concerns with relying too heavily on utilitarian thinking. You can end up in some really bad ethical spots if that's the only go-to you have. So I would hope that there'll be other things used other than that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing those thoughts, Mark. And maybe I can pick your brain a little bit around, especially that, your last aspect there about different ways to evaluate decisions. And regarding the timing, I'll just circle back to that real quickly. This work is funded by the Department of Education, and one of the requirements is that it occurs this school year. A lot of the people that were at the workshops that we were at turned right around and started like this, in November when they were still getting the training. So it is pretty quick, but I do think that the timing for us will work well with the start of the semester. Let's see.
Another thought wonder I have going is just, and this is really not specific to this, but throughout all of our strategic plan, I think one of the key things we need to be doing, and this does come back to resources ultimately, so the board needs to be thinking about it too, is just making sure teachers, creating new curriculum takes time. And I know teachers are already working a full day with, student class time often with one prep period. So just want to make sure that we're thinking about making sure 4-day training is great, but I'm sure that didn't get the curriculum in place. So just wanting to make sure we keep an ongoing conversation about getting the time to prepare new curriculum and what kinds of resources are needed to make that happen. Anything else? Great. Thank you, Susan. We'll move to the student representative report.
Hi, I hope you all had a really good new year. So to start with school culture, the Orono High School semi-formal dance is on January 24th. Thank you to the student council and advisor, Mrs. Clark, for all her hard work.
Yearbooks are still on sale.
Thank you to the Asa Adams PTO for running another successful craft fair.
The new Asa Adams playground is officially open.
As for academics, congratulations to seniors as the application process comes to an end, and thank you to the entire guidance staff for all their support and hard work.
The semester ends on January 24th.
Good luck to all students during midterm week coming up starting January 21st.
Thank you to all the NHS committee for all their hard work during this application cycle.
As for activities, the Orono Conditioning and Athletic Training Club has had a great start thanks to the hard work of Mr. Miller and students.
The Orono High School Nordic team competed in their first race of the season last weekend.
4 OHS indoor track athletes competed at the USM New Year's Invitational Meet this past weekend, with 3 of the athletes setting a new personal record.
Congratulations to the Orono High School Quiz Bowl team for qualifying and competing in High School Quiz Show Maine on Maine Public. Episodes will begin streaming on March.
Asa Adams Show Choir setting up later this month, and Miss Neville will send information to families soon. The set this year is called Where We Are, and there are no student concerns this time. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? We'll go ahead and move on to the superintendent's report.
I have a few things to report on. One item we were talking about just before the meeting, a few of us, I think if you live in Orono or work in Orono, you are aware we've had some power issues in town lately. We had, obviously before Christmas, that was a major outage that affected us worse than some districts in terms of the time it took for our restoration. We had a day out of school. And then we had an outage last week in the evening that canceled some events. And when it came back, it also messed up some equipment, damaged some equipment at ASA in particular that caused a longer startup of their day with tech until, I don't know, early afternoon. I think around lunchtime, ASA finally got tech back. Thanks to, and I should have said this during acknowledgements, Frank Barton and Hassan loaned us a switch to help get us back up and operational, because what was taken down was not something we had a backup for. And then yesterday we had lots of surges happening that ended up knocking out some other equipment. So all of this is to say, I've just been thinking, more and more that we're going to have to prioritize a generator for this building to try to level out some of these power issues we're having, and to hopefully eliminate the damaging surges that happen when you come back on site. I know that even with a generator you do have some on and off, but I think they're designed to be, a more clean switchover than just, the power completely going on and off. And so, it's a costly item. We're talking internally, Derek, and myself, but also, talking with Derek and Jason about the COPS grant and how we prioritize what we're doing in that budget, what we're doing in the capital, recommending for the capital improvement priorities for next year. So that's just something that I think rises to the top of the list for me. We're going to have ACEs operational. It'll probably be right at the end of the school year when the final piece gets put in for that, because there's one piece that is still in production. And so this building will be the last piece. So I just wanted to mention that and have you just, some general awareness about the impact these power fluctuations are having on our equipment and programming sometimes. It seems like more and more schools have full system generators and are not impacted by power outages the way we are. Brian and I, along with Laura Mitchell and a few others, have been continuing to work on the soccer Nordic Field Lights project. We have been trying to prepare a resubmission to the town for the planning board. And what we've been working on is an agreement with the neighbors that's still being worked on. The neighbors, the last thing that you saw was what we were passing over to them. And we got a response back that asked us to consider some different language, some adjustments. We met with them actually yesterday. We feel like we have almost come to a place that we're comfortable with, and we're going to send that over and have them tell us if they're comfortable with it, hopefully in time to bring it to the board January 21st, whenever we next meet. And basically we've included some of the field use administrative guidelines into the agreement, and done it in a way that gives us some flexibility, but also helps the neighbors feel more like a future board's not just going to change willy-nilly, and just send them a letter saying we're going to change it and come to the meeting and tell us what you think. I just wanted to give you that update to know that next meeting we'll be bringing that forward if we feel like we have agreement around the table from those parties to bring it forward. Brian, would you add anything to that?
No, I think you captured it. It's been a long, kind of confusing process between the planning board, the ordinances, the engineers, the lighting companies. It's really kind of mind-boggling how long it's not anybody's particular's fault, but it's been a complicated process. And we'll see how close we are with the neighbors. Hopefully we're close and we'll have something in 2 weeks.
And the reason it's so complicated is just because our property is just right, has neighbors right beside it. Places that have a lot of buffer and distance in between their property lines and residential areas don't have these same issues to address. So that's really what the complication is.
And also that the town ordinance is unusual. It's unusual, which is the engineers are having a hard time figuring out how to implement it. And it's anyway, so that's made it harder to design and implement and get clearance too.
And add attorneys into that. We've been working with our attorney on agreement language. So lots of moving parts to this. The other thing I wanted to update you on is budget prep is underway. No, it's not on the agenda yet. Kevin and I were saying once budget lands on the agenda, we know that we're in for a different kind of meeting. But budget prep is underway. We're hearing that it will be a tight budget year in Augusta. I don't know what that's going to mean for us on our ED 279. We typically get those by the end of January, but I don't know if this year we'll get them at that time frame. Just depends on how quickly things move in Augusta. I know that, you know, we have some things in the budget that we're going to be looking at closely, and some requests that I've asked. You know, we're having some discussions now around any staffing changes that people are seeing need for. So lots of work is being done. We have had a couple of staffing kind of issues in our office with just some unexpected people out. So we're working as hard as we can to make sure we meet those deadlines. And I'll update you if we have to shift anything on that first meeting. So our first meeting is typically a pretty general discussion, and so I don't think it would be the end of the world if we just shifted that general discussion one meeting, but I'll keep you posted on that. Finally, I have some news that's not great. We were talking with PCHC about the school-based health center, and really excited, and had some initial you know, very positive feedback. And they have told us, though, that they are not able to consider any new school-based health centers for the 25-26 school year, mainly due to workforce shortages they're experiencing in their existing practices and programs, and a couple of major projects they've already committed to around shifting to a new record system and opening a new dental practice in Belfast. They're really passionate about school-based health centers, and I was really pleased to see that. So I saw a commitment that once they're able to pursue this again, they have a list, they said, and we're on the list, and they were, you know, pleased to see our passion about it. I've reached out to another person with PCHC just to see if there's any other avenues to get started in some small way with more of an investment on our part, because I think usually when people start school-based health centers, it's kind of all on either grants or PCHC to fund. So I don't know if there's any possibility, if we had more of an investment, if they could do anything to start. So I've just sent an inquiry out to someone who has a connection with our schools who might be able to, you know, see if there are any possibilities. But I just want to share with you that update. It's not the update I hope to give, but it's something that I think we need to continue to pursue and see if there's a way to make happen for our district. Any questions or comments on any of that or anything else? Brian, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Seeing no questions, we'll go ahead and move on. We did the audit presentation, so we'll move on to the OMS presentation.
Okay, well, I want to start by saying thanks for the opportunity to present this evening. I've talked with Meredith earlier, and we were saying sometimes you live in your own reality, and we kind of, you know, you don't realize that other people don't experience the world the same way you do, and not necessarily, they may not necessarily know what's going on. So I think this is a good opportunity to discuss many of the things that are happening at Orono. And when I was thinking about how to prepare or organize the slideshow tonight, I wanted to use a framework, and I may or may not have had success here, but broadly, I use the NEAS public school standards as a framework for kind of organizing the slideshow and into these different categories: learning culture, professional practices, student learning. We're going to look at and how we support student learning, and then resources that we have available. So that's sort of a loose framework for understanding what we do. I wanted to also highlight the mission of our school. Now, I will note that the mission that as displayed here is one that's been around, it predates, my time in OMS, but the statement, the sentence at the bottom, I think is true, and the mission is, you know, sort of outlines that, but our aim is to support, you know, the human development and growth of the whole student at OMS. So we try to diversify our programming, as they're going to see, and, consider many different aspects of, student development, especially, you know, in that critical, middle school age, group. And I think, it's important, you know, the success of students is monitored and supported, and, you know, to include, as I noted in the mission, the different aspects of human development. And I think some of the ways we celebrate, learning at OMS, kind of hits on that, right? We try and do it purposefully so that we are including different groups of students. We're recognizing different things that students do, and you know, try to, everybody should be celebrated. That's kind of, that's sort of the basis of our thinking on that. So celebration breakfast, that really looks at, students, participation in extra and co-curriculars. And, so we also recommend, or highlight academic success, but not just, academic success. The core values focuses on, different aspects of, you know, responsibility, caring for others, working together as in a cooperative groups and stuff. We do a lot of things, showcasing student, work, and, this, showcases such, I'm thinking of the, art festival and the science fair, things that really showcase, students' work and give, students an opportunity to, be celebrated. Displays of work. If you come over to the middle school, there's a lot of student art up in the student academic work hanging around. So we try to include that, to help students feel a part of the school. Our student numbers are currently, we're at 155, and next year's 5th grade, we're planning for that. It's going to be 69 students or so. So that's a large group for us, and so we need to consider that as we plan for next year, which is right around the corner. Scheduling for that is something that's staring us right in the face. On this next slide, this is very important. At the bottom, on the your left, the ELA graphs highlight our academic achievement, and I can I'm just, I don't know if I want to move over, but you can see a line on all students on the far left, and there's a line there, 64.7%. The 64.7% represents a goal that's established by the state, and you know, for achievement based on our school. And so we're achieving well in ELA. All students are above that state defined goal of 64.7%. And then to the right of that is economic disadvantage in ELA. And again, you can see we're performing above our goal on the achievement level, and the same for students with disabilities, and then the same for the white student population, which is our largest subgroup. So if we move over to math on the right, we see that all students are performing above their goal line. And then to the far right, white students, students who identify as white are also above the goal line. Two trouble spots are our economic disadvantage and our students with disabilities. Their growth, not their growth, but their achievement level in mathematics is below, you know, the goal line. We want to change that. So I wanted to illustrate at the top, we see that this is chronic absenteeism. And we can see that the economic disadvantage and the students with disabilities have, you know, high occurrence of chronic absenteeism. So one has to wonder, you know, how does this impact their mathematics performance or the performance in ELA? And I have to think that it has a significant impact on that. So that's something we're considering, and as we're doing a lot of extra work this year, focusing on improving school attendance, but specifically for our economic disadvantaged students and their students with disabilities.
This is taken, this slide's taken right off the DOE website. There's a school accountability dashboard that is put out because of the requirement for federal testing. And so it is, but it has a lot of elements to it. The only downside to the portal is it's usually a little behind where we would like to be looking at data. They're, you know, usually in the previous year is what's posted this time, about this time of year. Actually, I think maybe November, they finally posted last year's data. So that's the only downside. But if you're looking for data, that's a good place to go and, you know, just see what the state has. They have staff, they have, you know, absenteeism, they have a lot of demographic data and then achievement data. So it's a good resource.
You know, on one level, it kind of confirms what I already anticipated. I spent a lot of time looking at student attendance data, and you know, I can predict that our economic disadvantaged population or our students with disabilities have a high absentee rate, and this kind of confirms, you know, my hunch on that too. So it's good data, and it kind of it's important to focus on you know, what different factors may be impacting students in the subgroup.
Richard, sorry, could I ask a quick question on that slide?
Yeah, please.
I mean, certainly the absenteeism jumps out, and I know we've talked about that before. And I certainly, you know, the differentiation between groups and the high levels of in your connection to the math scores all make a lot of sense. But it looks to me like the state goal is 10%. Are there any schools in the state that are getting below 10% post-COVID?
I would say it's definitely anomalous if there are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Brian, in my conversations with you know, colleagues, fellow principals around our region, that it's definitely a regional problem.
But statewide problem.
Yeah.
I suspect a national problem, which doesn't take it away as a problem, but I think it's important when you start to address the problem to know what the scope of the problem is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Again, one of our student learning activities here are identified as, this is definitely a crossover to the different NEAS category standards. But anyhow, I wanted to illustrate that we have a different clubs and activities that appeal to different kids from a broad range. You know, when I look through the list here, I can run through my head. You know, these are things that are really important to some students, and it really gives them a purpose. In some cases, a purpose to come to school. So these are just some of the clubs and activities that we have going on every single week. Also, like other programs, this is an impressive slide. This next one, the things that we do, and in preparing this slide, I got to sit down and kind of create a list, right, and run through my head. But the fantastic field trips that we have, and I think there's a lot of collaboration with local businesses and the University of Maine. We probably the majority of our collaboration is with some aspect of the University of Maine reflected in our field trip pattern. But also local businesses and other local areas of interest that are around our state. Our outing club, those 3 trips are fantastic. Hiking at Acadia, skiing at a local ski hill, and then that rafting trip. You know, those are things kids really look forward to. So I speak, you know, speaks well to some of the programming that we're doing. On the other side, the other programming, I think the things that interest students there that are important are showcased and highlight what we can do. The performing arts, Meredith, you mentioned that a little while ago. We just had our December concerts, and they were fantastic. I see that students are kind of getting back into that. I feel like there's a little rebound from the pandemic. The numbers are popping up there. So lots going on with OMS and field trips and other programming. On the next slide, I outline the athletics. We have high numbers, high participation numbers. I talk a lot about athletics in my newsletters, and most of our teams, our sports participate through the Penobscot Valley Middle League, but not all of them. We have a number of independent sports going on, and a few things I didn't mention here is sort of some kind of newer things are Special Olympics. We have some interest in unified basketball, and so there's kind of some other things that are beyond this. And again, the idea is to include all students. I appreciate the support of the board and through funding our sports and allowing us the opportunity to run a program where we don't have cuts. And so if a kid wants to play sports, they can participate. So 61% approximately of our student body participated in a fall sport, and we're just about 50% in the winter sports. And if you want to see some good basketball, our tournaments are coming up in February, both an A and a B tournament coming up. So look forward to those. And performing arts, as I mentioned a little while ago, our numbers are looking okay. I'd like to grow the programs more, but they're up from from the pandemic years, and so we can see about half of our student body is participating in one of our chorus, orchestra, or band programming. And we had a fantastic school play just recently in Shrek. It was a collaborative effort between OHS and OMS, and that was well done. It was a nice collaboration. And I just wanted to speak on a side note. Having the opportunity to be connected to the high school is a wonderful thing, I think, for students, because it creates opportunities like this for students to collaborate with their older peers. We're planning on reviving show choir this winter, and we're also planning in spring play. So there's lots of performing arts opportunities. This is our accelerated classes kind of list, and you can see in parentheses after each class I included the student participation numbers. And again, note that our school population is approximately 155. So these are decent numbers that are student numbers in our accelerated classes. I can answer any question about a specific class if you had the question about a specific class, but those are generally our pathways for ELA and mathematics accelerated classes. Academic support. So these are things that we do that help students stay on track, if you will. And so one thing is study hall rotations. So what that means is most students have a daily study hall, and most of the time it's period 6 or 7 toward the end of the day. So there's multiple study halls going on at the same time, and teachers collaborate, and we're able to move students around to get them the help that they need from specific teachers, or they can remain in the study hall and get support, from the study hall teacher at that time. So all our core content area teachers have a study hall so that they can support students. So lots of work going on during those times. One challenge is that not all students have that study. So some students get left out of that opportunity, if you will. We also add daily homework call, daily in the morning, and 3 days a week in the afternoon. That's a very popular club, if you will, homework call. We have our regulars, and also we have the opportunity to assign students to homework call when they're in need of getting some extra work. And how do we determine that? How do we do that? So we do things like bi-weekly grade checks. We do that through the office. And then of course teachers talking as part of the study hall rotation, having a good handle on where kids are, and we can collaborate to make those assignments to homework home. We also do bi-weekly attendance checks. We stepped that up this year. We used to, a lot, in previous years, I used to do that monthly, but we wanted to step that up to bi-weekly this year because as I shared earlier, that is a challenge area for us. We also progress reports. I jokingly call those the pull up your socks report because those are mailed home to students with a grade of D or below at the midpoint of the quarter. So that gives students and families an opportunity to check that. And then we have a school-wide behavior tracking system. It's an electronic system. We use a form and that data goes into a spreadsheet, and that helps us monitor student behavior and keep track of things. Generally, like depends on the incident, but 3 referrals to the behavior system that results in like a meeting with me and a phone call. Generally, right? Some if it's more severe, then that might be 1 time, but generally it's 3 times. And I thought it's important to talk a little bit about kind of our school governance structures. And so we meet generally weekly with the district administrative team, and those are good meetings, and we kind of talk about big picture things, district ideas, and things that pertain to that connect us as all our 3 students. So we start there, and then at the school level, we have sort of three primary teams that focus on, so I guess you call it school governance and how we function and planning for that. So the PBIS team, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports team, has a lot of words, but PBIS team, and the focus there primarily is on student wellness and different types of support. So we talk about things like student grades, student behavior, other student needs. Is the student impacted by different things, mental health, all kinds of things we talk about, but the focus is on student wellness. Our department teams, those are our kind of the English department, the math department, et cetera, right? We focus on teaching and learning practices in those meetings, and it might be resource evaluation. Maybe we bought some new resources for mathematics, so we spent time in that department team looking at resources last year, right? So that's the focus of department meetings, and then staff meetings, of course, are general planning to support school programs, just sort of general things. As we come on. So that's sort of the school governance structures, and these teams are we have formal meetings monthly, but I also meet with department team leaders, like I would say daily might be in a stretch, but certainly weekly on different things, and staff PBIS team leader all the time when there's student issues, and So there's a lot going on there, but we have monthly, formal monthly meeting every month for all of those teams. One thing that we implemented a couple of years ago, and this grew out of some district work that we were doing, and about student success plans. But I wanted to illustrate just a couple of bullets to show some of the data that we're collecting, right? But the sentence at the bottom really illustrates how that's beneficial to us, right? So the data helps us better understand our students. Who are the students sitting in front of us, and how can we support them at school, right? That's the purpose of this. So the 4 bullets that I have. So I'll just use the first one to illustrate. 98% of peers have peers who they consider friends, right? That tells me that 2% don't, right? Who are the 2%? And that's what I would be concerned with. And so that type of thing, right? We also collect data on what are your aspirations? So, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That sort of thing. And we kind of piece it all together to give us a sense of who the students are and how they think about themselves, right? And so the industry, like 91% identify as male or female, so that's a good amount that don't. Right, so at the middle school age, that's kind of a thing that we encounter. So it's just helpful in that regard, and I think it helps us better support students in their learning. We have a couple of formal things that help us support student learning, and we have advisory period every single day. That's 20 minutes, and we do a variety of different things. We have formal lessons that are connected to larger district goals that we revisit quarterly. We do one thing that our schedule is jam-packed. Students are busy on the academic side all day long. So this is an opportunity to get back to the principles behind the regulated classroom and get students moving around, right? So we have gym rotations, we have PE advisors. A lot of teachers have been collecting like resources that students can use to move, right? That in a small space, like things you can stand on, like balls and stretching things and yoga and that sort of thing. So we do a lot of that during advisory period, and that gives students in the middle of the day a chance to kind of regulate themselves. We have our social work and counseling sessions. We have social groups that focus on things like different types of specific student needs. For example, communication skills, peer interactions. We have the what was it? The yellow tulip group that started up today, the new arts and crafts, but it's with a mental health kind of like focus, right? So lots of things there, and guidance services, that's mainly with Mr. Buhner, and he's busy working with students each and every day through the guidance office, and that's a great service. MLL services, that's a growing area that is and that really focuses on English language learners. And so we have where we haven't had, now we do have students and more of them. So and our wellness coordinator recently did this a special project with us. It's called Kindness Ring. That was just kind of a fun activity with students to show kindness, and we made a bulletin board. That was kind of fun. So those kinds of things just help students feel good about school. So wanted to share that. This is an interesting slide. So it's not a surprise. We have a veteran staff at Orono Middle School, and so I just wanted to illustrate the average 20.7 years average experience for the general education teachers at MONS. So that's quite a few years of experience, and I think. Also, we have, I want to compliment the staff. Like I was going to say, I think we have a lot of experience here, but we have good teachers that have been here for a long time that, you know, have a proven track record. So hats off to the teaching staff. And so 82% of them have an advanced degree, and we have, of course, 2 teachers who are nationally board certified. That's a big deal. That's a real big deal. It's a lot of work and time and effort, and those are among the best teachers, you know, that you'll find national board certified. And we had 2 recent Penobscot County Teacher of the Year. So I feel like the teaching staff that we have, you know, has a lot of experience and brings a lot to the table to support student learning. So I wanted to share that. That's one of our learning resources, perhaps our best one right there. As you know, I won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but our building is put up in the 1930s. It's you know, it needs some work. That's the best way to say that, right? It needs some work. So that's one of our learning resources, right? And it does have some charm, especially the gym. I love the windows, and you know you're in a school, an old time school, when you walk in the front doors. So in November, I had the pleasure of going to Springfield, Massachusetts, to the PSUG conference. I'm not sure what PSUG stands for, but it's a technology
Power
conference.
School User Group.
Power School User Group. And so there's a lot of experts there from different areas, and I was really looking for someone to talk with me about scheduling, okay? Building the OMS schedule, because in the current year, as I'll talk about in a minute, but our schedule is jam-packed, and are the ways that we can create more options for students within the schedule. That was my goal, right? So I met with two experts, Paula from Freeport, Maine, actually, from Paula, and I think it was John, sorry, Bob, and he was from Boston, Bob, and both had many years' experience building schedules and all of that. So I had the opportunity to sit down with both of them for about an hour each, and I laid it all out, our schedule and how we put it together and the whole thing. And so our discussion led me to understand what that we have many scheduling variables, right? We offer excellent programming and it's rich and it's broad, right? Students get to participate in a lot of different content, I guess, within our schedule. But the challenge is there's many variables that impact that, right? So it ties our hands in some ways. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But shared staff, we have a good amount, probably half of our staff is shared between the middle school and the high school, and in some cases ASA, and so that impacts building a schedule. And our accelerated classes also must happen at specific times, right? Because of teacher availability. So, this teacher can only teach during period 3. So that class needs to be at that time. And so that's another thing that's a variable in their schedule. And we have a relatively small full-time core content staff, 8 right now currently, right? That's like English, social studies, math, science, full-time core content staff. So they can only be, you can't be in 2 places at once, kind of speak, so to speak, right? So that's another variable within our schedule that limits access to the class. One thing I didn't list here is like students might want to take a class, right? And they want to do this, they want to do accelerated ELA and orchestra. And sometimes because we have so many options and then these variables, it makes it more challenging to fit the schedule together that way. So those are that as a learning resource, I just wanted to share. Those are some variables that we face in building our schedule. And I want to note this becomes even more impactful when enrollment numbers go up, right? So this is the last slide, and I wanted to I hope that this gives you an overview of kind of how some of the things that are going on, some of the challenges that we face, and I'm really kind of thinking ahead to next year and how we're going to make things even better at OMS for students. So this is kind of my summary of school needs and thinking ahead to next year, right? So building facilities in need of updates, we all know that. So we have limited classroom space and rooms. Some are big and some are small and all of that. So those are things I see more long term than short term. And as I noted, the sharing of staff, like in my view, and speaking with the scheduling folks that I mentioned at the last slide there, if somehow we were able to figure out less sharing of staff across buildings, that would help us with teacher availability and how we build the schedule. So I think that's one thing that we could consider. And but one unanticipated result of accelerated classes is that results in grouping students in non-accelerated classes. And what I mean is, because of the limiting variables within their schedule, sometimes, like if students are taking accelerated ELA, I'll just use that as an example, there's a high likelihood that group of students will travel around during the day because there are limited spots for them to go. And that results in, obviously that has an impact on students in accelerated classes, but also the students in the non-accelerated classes and who they are, right? And how we group and regroup students throughout the school. So that's another challenge within our schedule. and, or not within our schedule, but, that we face in, improving the experience for students. We have, as Lisa noted in her presentation, not tonight, but recently, we have a high, relatively high number of students with IEPs, approximately 28%. And approximately 14% of students with a 504 plan. So accommodating the needs of those students and meeting their needs is something that we need to consider, especially as those numbers go up. And so that's pretty much my presentation in summary. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Very important.
Questions, comments?
I don't really have any questions. I mean, I've had kids consistently at the middle school, for years. So most of this, if not all of it, I was relatively aware of. And I totally understand the facilities challenges. We're hopeful on that. But as you mentioned, that might still be more of a long-term thing.
Yeah.
Short-term thing. I also get the challenges presented by the sharing of staff, but I'm not sure that I see an easy solution on that.
Maybe not an easy solution.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally get it, but I just don't know, and I'm kind of just starting to think about that, but it's hard for me to imagine an easy way at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I totally understand.
Yeah, it impacts every school in that way, actually.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
It's part of it though is the curse in some ways of having so much that we offer for a relatively small school.
Right.
So there's solutions, but they all involve trade-offs or significantly more reasons.
That's the other thing, right, that I alluded to, but didn't say directly, is that like the broad program that it's fantastic,
Yeah.
but it does just what you said.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Brian, anything that you?
Well, I mean, just on a positive note on that topic, we're not talking about lunch as a constraining factor in the schools anymore. I think
No.
those of us who've been on the board for a long time have heard that for years and years and years. That was one of the major motives behind the construction. So, as we look at the problems lying ahead, it's nice to recognize one problem overcome. I'm sure it's not completely overcome, but it's not at the front of the list anymore. Yeah, I mean, it strikes me, Richard, the facilities obviously is its own category. I think we're aware of and talking about, but a lot of what you're talking about are the scheduling challenges to a very large degree are a function of being a small school.
Yes.
So I think it's always important to think about the pivot of the potential advantages of being a small school and whether we're maximizing those as well. I tend to think we are, but just from wearing my business management kind of hat, that's the flip side question you always want to ask
Right.
is how we're taking advantage of that. Right. Things that are weaknesses usually are the other side of the coin is a strength. And I think the strength is how small we are, which for a middle school, I think is an especially important strength. But
If I can speak to that, Brian, I think the advantage of that really is on the social emotional side, right? Because, and not to take away from the academic side, but I think being a small school, we get to know every kid, and that's, I think that's important.
yeah, that sounds right to me. Just one more question. So we all know about the quality or age of the facilities, but you have a note about classroom space being limited. Could you speak a little more to the space or capacity issue as opposed to the quality issue?
Yeah, I think some of our spaces are small, like I think of our foreign language classroom, we've got them crammed in there, it seems, for a class or two, and I think when the incoming sixth grade comes up next year, that, there are almost 70 students, that's gonna pose some challenges. But where are we gonna put them all, right? Because every available space is utilized. So, I mean, those are challenges that we'll work out and figure out, but, you know, ones that we need to give some thought to.
There does seem to be, and not just the middle school, but the middle school seems like it's just the smallest set of grades. It seems like the volatility in class size really kind of runs across. I have a fifth grader right now, so I'll be sending an undercover agent into middle school to find out more about all of this. But yeah, it would be nice to at least brainstorm this spring about some of these ideas. You know, whether they're tough solutions or they're all tough solutions. But it does sound like you have some challenges that at least warrant imagining. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for going first, Richard.
Yeah.
Richard was the first to
My pleasure.
present, so
Oh,
more to
nice.
come from high school and ASA over the next couple months.
I was wondering that as he was presenting, like, did I miss the ASA one?
No, we're asking them each to do one per month. So Richard's doing this month, high school's next month, ASA's in March.
Okay.
We don't always go in chronological age order, Kevin.
And no reason why you should, but I'm at that point where I could have had a sleepy night and like, ah, what was covered? What was
Richard
covered?
volunteered to go first.
All right. Thank you, Richard. That was very helpful. We don't have staff nominations. We do have a new stipend position. So you want to
Yes.
give us that narrative?
Sure. So this is one of those requests that's based on an unusually high amount of students that wanted to participate in boys basketball at the middle school this year. I think we've had this before and we just did a temporary stipend, but it wasn't codified into the contract. So we don't have anything existing there, and we'd like to put something in that would be on an as-needed basis. And so we're recommending that we add an OMS Boys C basketball team coaching stipend, and that we have it have a similar threshold as we have other stipends that would be of that responsibility, a responsibility to time to. Right now, our A and B coaches are just splitting the responsibility to coach that team, and so they're doing it on on their own time. So next meeting, we would be coming back with recommendations to hire them officially in those capacities and be able to pay them for what they've been doing thus far in the season. But as Richard said, we have kind of a no-cut policy. So this is one of the sports at the middle school. This and sometimes cross country has an unusually high influx that we have to add a coach. And I think we've had that in Nordic another time where we had to add a coach. So some sports just seem to have need for that, and it's good to have those in the contract on an as-needed basis. So that's the recommendation we bring to you.
So I would make a motion to add the stipend position OMS Boys Basketball C team coach to be filled on an as-needed basis. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead and vote. Kevin?
Hi.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. You broke up, Kevin, but I assume you said aye, which would make it a 3-0 vote. Next up, we have policies. We're not actually asking people to approve a policy. We're asking for some guidance back to the policy committee. I'm a little bit torn because Mark and I have already seen this, and Kevin, we
Policy
certainly.
committee is here, right? So I mean, the only one of the other three are not here. I think we should probably punt on this until the next meeting and hope that Jake and Noah are able to join us.
Yeah,
Not that
that's
Kevin's
got.
feedback is invaluable, but he's only one of three.
Yeah, no offense.
Yeah, that you're a minority of the people whose opinions we were seeking on this. So yeah, that's where I was headed, Mark. I agree. I think we should punt and bring it back with hopefully a full board. Subcommittee reports. Policy subcommittee, we didn't meet in January. I think we still have some other things that we'll be doing in February, even if we don't. Well, we'll still be able to get FF back in 2 weeks before then. And I think we have one or two other policies we're working on, but it's been a slow year for policy, which is nice after some years of hard work.
We're
anything on
bringing GAI back to the committee in February.
Okay. All right, so
We'll give us one.
anything from UTC?
We have not met since we last met as a board. So, no.
All right, curriculum subcommittee is this Thursday. Anything else I'm missing? Okay, wellness committee. Noah's not here, but we'll get an update next time. Strategic plan leadership team has not, I believe, met since the last board meeting. Although I lost track a little bit over the holidays there. I'm pretty sure we got an update last time we met. Is there any other business? Any requests, any future agenda items? I'll just quickly note that Susan did the legwork to look up state averages on chronic absenteeism, which is in the chat if anybody's interested. Thank you, Susan. Any public comment?
None in the room, Brian.
Okay. Our next board meeting is in 2 weeks on January 21st at 6 p.m. in the library and on Zoom. Any requests for information or follow-up? I would motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll go ahead and vote. Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Aye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Not quite.
Not too bad, Mark.
Yeah. Catch the second half.
Hey, guys.
Thank you,
Richard, thank you.
Yeah.
So Kevin, at some point, I'd like to talk to you about something about UTC that
Yeah,
is going to come up. Do you have a moment now?
yeah, I do. Do I come closer or is this a good
Oh,
distance?
we can talk like this. I think Amanda's probably talked to you all about the crosswalk, the credit crosswalk that has to be created this year. That's been mandated that regions have and every district implements in the same way, which is a great thing. I think that's important. That
Pretty heavy pull too.
it is, it's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
So the work, has been underway and Amanda and her team have been working on it with staff and collaborating with like the main curriculum leaders association. They brought a draft back to the superintendent's group, in December, I think it was, to take a look at. And they had outlined, on this draft that showed each program and what was,
Yeah, I think I saw a draft.
yeah, you probably saw the same thing I saw.
Yeah, I may interrupt you with the building question.
Yeah.
Like if I go through down to the gym, but then walk out to come back out the front doors, am I gonna be able to get out those doors?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could go out, you just can't.
Can't come in, that's what I thought, but
Yeah.
I didn't wanna walk all the way down. Thank you.
Sure. And when we met, there were a couple of superintendents who really kind of passionately spoke and persuasively to do something to the draft that was presented that both Meredith and I really have big concerns about. And it ended up passing that group's approval to make that change. And the change was, on the draft, it had some years for some content, there was a half credit being awarded, and other,
I haven't heard
times
back
a whole
from
credit
anyone
just based on how much content the instructors,
I couldn't commit
and or the
to that,
curriculum
no.
leaders association felt was
And
justified
my top
based
school
on,
doesn't have really.
all the other stuff that those
Your top
PT
school.
instructors are having to. And it ended up that the superintendent said, no half credits, wherever there's a half